What's going on, everybody? My name's Sonny Bales, and this is the Rising Legacies podcast. I said it was coming, and here it is. So we are going to create a community from the inside out. People going through similar things, going through similar struggles, and just kind of be able to relate and connect with one another, which I'll go into more on what that's going to be about in total. But first, this is more going to be kind of the introductory style episode, and excuse me, I'm totally doing this off the cuff right now, and I'll get into more of that as well. But an introductory to what this is going to be all about. All right, I want to give you a little bit of background on me, and then also, kind of just what gave me the idea and where it's headed. All right, so first of all, as you can tell, I'm pretty new to this. I mean, you've seen me on camera a couple of different times. But I may fumble over my words. I may stumble a little bit. Realistically, this is actually pretty uncomfortable to me. But, I know in my heart that the more uncomfortable I am, the more growth that I'm going to get out of it. So let's start a little ways back. So I want to start at the beginning of not the beginning of my journey, but towards the beginning of my journey at least. That really started giving me some momentum towards the life that I have now and really where I'm going. So it honestly started in sales. So as many of you know, I work for a Tower Motor Company down there. I call myself a automotive consultant. You can call me a sales professional. You can call me whatever you want. I don't ascribe to particularly any label. I am what I am. I'm here to guide. I'm here to serve. So. But when I originally started, I would say, I did start as a sales person in the previous dealership that I was at. So I never saw myself in a sales role, period. I actually had the opportunity in some previous employment with this awesome individual and leader, local guy here in the community. Shout out to John P. But he gave me the opportunity to actually get into a lead role as well as a supervisor role in the previous company I was working for, not in sales, just customer service. And having that opportunity to really stretch beyond my means of what I thought I was capable of with other individuals was pretty phenomenal. He's a very motivating individual. If you have the chance to meet that guy, or if you've had the chance to work with him, he's awesome. But nonetheless, that kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone a little bit. But my buddy reaches out to me and says, "Hey man, I think you should come down here and sell cars with me. I think you'd be really good at it." And I'm like, really? He's like, "Yeah, man, come check it out, come try." So I was like, all right. So I went down, I met the manager, I got myself kind of pumped up. I met the manager and, he goes, "Hey, you think you can do this?" I'm like, yeah, sure, yeah, why not? And he goes, "All right, you're hired, let's go." Basically tossed me my keys and said, "Go get them." I didn't have a whole lot of training. I didn't have much to run on, and at that point, what I didn't realize is that I was going to come real quickly to the face of all my inadequacies. So fears of rejection, social anxiety, just overall lack of confidence in people skills, which, whether that be social anxiety or what have you. And I really didn't know much about cars at the time, to be completely honest with you. So, I think maybe I ended up getting a vehicle out helping a customer on the first week. But it was difficult. It was very, very uncomfortable. So luckily I had my friend there, and he was awesome. So, he helped out as far as having someone there to relate to. But yeah, it was difficult. So where I'm going with that is when I originally got into my office, something cool really happened. I had an office, I had a desk. And from, I'm assuming, the previous salesperson, there was books in the drawer as I was cleaning it out, preparing my office. And I remember I wasn't an avid reader at the time. I don't think I really read at all. But I pulled out this stack of books. It was about like this. And the majority of them were sales books, Joe Verde, just, Grant Cardone, whatever, and they were like this. And so I'm laying them on the table and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna read that, And then I remember on the bottom of the stack, there was these two books. And one of them was, about like that. One was about like that, a little bit bigger. And they looked different. They weren't sales books. So I was like, what are these? And I remember kind of just glossing over the front and back, and I put them in a separate stack, 2 different stacks, and I said, I might actually read those, like genuinely. So I took the sales books, and only God knows where those things went to this day, and the other books I put back in the drawer. Well, I think it was a couple months down the road, I was going through some lulls, having a hard time, still going through the struggle, and I decided to open the drawer and pick up one of those books, the smaller one, of course. And I flipped it open, and the first thing that I read was like a light bulb went off, and I was staring in a mirror. It just hit me, just like that. And I just couldn't put it down. It's only like 58 pages or something. And I literally just read through the whole thing. I think I might even read through it multiple times. And at that point, I had done very minimal inner work. Inner work, I mean, the stories that had been running me. I was been focused mostly on the external. And so this book just lit up my inner world, and it just blew my mind. And so that was a really profound shift for me, and super synchronistic that those things were in that drawer at that time. I mean, it was just so pivotal. And so anyways, I read that one. That was a big shift. It made me start looking at things in a different way. And then I think it was a couple months down the road, same thing. I picked up the other one, and I'm like, maybe I should check this one out. Flipped that thing open, started reading it, and it was just like, what in the world? Who put these in here? Like, it was crazy. It was like just a light, again, in a different way, in a different fashion, in a different perspective, but it just completely shifted. I would say those 2 books are the absolute foundation for the journey that I've been on for the last 6.5 years, 6 years. Probably something like that. So just real quick, I wanted to show you what those 2 books are as kind of a beginning to this. So the first one was As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And there's actually quite a few people that know what this book is. As you can see, it's not very big. And then the second one was The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And he's got a whole series of books that I've since read, and he's absolutely phenomenal. Toltec Wisdom, great read. But just real quick, I'll read you a passage. The first thing that I opened up to, the first 2 things. So the introduction, it says, mind is the master power that molds and makes, and man is mind, and evermore he takes the tool of thought, and shaping what he wills, brings forth 1,000 joys, 1,000 ills. He thinks in secret, and it comes to pass. Environment is but his looking glass. And then if you actually get to the first page here, it says, the aphorism, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, not only embraces the whole of a man's being, but is so comprehensive as to reach out to every condition and circumstance of his life. A man is literally what he thinks, his character being the complete sum of all his thoughts. As the plant springs from and could not be without the seed, so every active man springs from the hidden seeds of thought and could not have appeared without them. It gets pretty deep as you continue to read into it, but powerful stuff. And then the second one, the 4 Agreements. So I had a little passage picked out of this one. So here you go. Humans are dreaming all the time. Before we were born, the humans before us created a big outside dream that we will call society's dream, or the dream of the planet. The dream of the planet is the collective dream of billions of smaller personal dreams, which together create a dream of a family, a dream of a community, a dream of a city, a dream of a country, and finally a dream of the whole humanity. The dream of the planet includes all of society's rules, its beliefs, its laws, its religions, its different cultures and ways to be, its governments, schools, social events, and holidays. We are born with the capacity to learn how to dream, and the humans who live before us teach us how to dream the way society dreams. So that gets, again, very deep. The 4 Agreements are actually, which goes through, be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. So if you get the opportunity, these books are incredible. So the reason that I introduced those books, the biggest thing that did for me was because it caused such a mirror reflection and such an ability to look inside at what was going on, the narratives that I was running in a way, like the stories that I was telling myself, the beliefs that I carried, not only the beliefs towards myself, but the beliefs towards other people. It just opened up such a level of compassion for not just myself, but other people holistically, the community, the humanity, just absolutely everybody. And that's been kind of carried on through my work in my journey. So, I mean, it wasn't just like, boom, a light switch went off and my life was all peachy keen and it was just sunshine and rainbows. I mean, I absolutely still went through tons and tons of struggles, which is, I mean, it's more than I can relay on this particular episode, but we will get into that as time goes on. I'm sure a lot of that's going to come out. But I just wanted to share that pivotal aspect. And I mean, really, it did bring me to want to serve people at the highest level. I just didn't know what that looked like. I mean, years go by. As I begin to digest this wisdom, I get absolutely immersed in podcasts and books, everything I could possibly get my hands on. And I stumbled across another gentleman by the name of Peter Crone. And he, again, was hugely pivotal in my journey. And I had the opportunity to do a 6-month-long mastermind, his first one ever, where he kind of went into how he coaches people live with a bunch of people on a call. And it was phenomenal. But the idea, I actually had the ability to develop some relationships with some folks. And one in particular stuck out. I hopped on a call with a couple of different times, but to kind of bring things up, full circle, just back this hunting season. So I'm an archery hunter, and it's very important to me. It's huge to be able to not just spend the time in the mountains, but to be able to provide that meat for my family. So this last season, I actually came out unsuccessful. And so what happened right after the season's end was I felt pretty heavy. So I took a significant amount of time away from my workplace, away from my business, away from my family, and then came out unsuccessful. And so I felt like not only was I not providing financially, I wasn't providing the love and support at home because I wasn't there, and I also didn't provide the meat for my family. So those things hit me pretty hard. To be honest, I got teared up a little bit explaining it to my wife one day, and I decided to hop on a call with this individual that I met through the Peter Crone Mastermind. Well, when I got on the call with this gentleman, he listened to my story, and that's one of the most powerful things that he does is listen. And one of the things that he said was, it sounds like you're focused a lot on what you're doing. In just the wording that you're using, it sounds like you're focused a lot on what you're doing. And I'm like, yeah, well, clearly I feel like I'm not doing enough. And it was interesting because one of the things that had came to me in breathwork meditation was, it's actually a piece of scripture. It said, whatever you do, do it with all your might. And it just made me think, okay, well, I just gotta work harder. I gotta do more. I gotta be better. And it was really, really heavy. And so when he reflected that back to me, and I had mentioned that whatever you do, do it with all your might, he said, let me give you a little bit of a shift. He said, what if instead of whatever you do, do it with all your might, what if it was whatever you do, be with all of your being? And at the time I was like, oh, word shift, cool, like it didn't really hit me until a little while later. And what I realized was the aspect of doing comes from just one specific motivation, right? You're doing something to get that one thing done, for the most part, and it's very transactional in a way, is what I would say. But the aspect of being classifies a larger expression. And so what I realized is it's not what I did, but it's how I did it. And that really brought about the post. Maybe a lot of you seen the previous post that I did in the community, where I wanted to see, how I could impact, or how I could serve more powerfully and impact at a larger scale. And what I ended up doing was I wanted to ask for as much feedback as possible, which I've continued doing in my place of business. How can I serve at the highest level possible, provide world-class customer service, whether it's in the office, out of the office, doesn't matter. And then I wanted to serve more powerfully to my community. So I decided to ask for feedback on anybody that the community thought needed a little bit of help in any of the vehicles that I would sell. I would take a portion of what I make and put it towards those families in need. I would pick a random one every single month to be of service to. And it's not just about the money. It was more about, being there to support them. It's more about the hug and the smile and just reaching out and say, hey man, you're loved. Like, there's people that care about you. Like, you're looked after. I think that's a really powerful thing. And the third one was in my family. I feel like, and I said this before, but I feel like there's a lot of things that are caught, not taught. And so in that way, there's tons of different things that I've learned over the short 33 years that I've been on this planet. And there's lots of different shortcomings and things that, even the story that I just told, all of the minor details and how I overcame certain things that I could tell them. But who am I truly being? What's my expression like? How am I around them, not around them? What do I give? What aura do I give off? What energy do I give off that they're going to pick up on, that they're going to carry into their lives, right? It's not about me telling them the way that they should do things. It's about me helping guide them through my presence to navigate their own journey and their own lives. And so how can I be of service to my family is just being the most authentic expression possible that I could be. And so I actually came up with an idea on how I do that. I have a goal book I read every morning, and sometimes I write in it as well. But what I came up with was a list of virtues. So I brought it as well. So what it is I go over my goals, but then I also I read this page, and the first part of it says, whatever you do, do it with all your might. And then when I flip it, it says, whatever I do, be with all my being. And then if I flip one more page, I have a list of virtues, and I'll add to this from time to time. So I say, whatever I do, be with all of my being. And I say, be courageous, be brave, be resilient, be kind, be honorable, be humble, be grateful, be authentic, be compassionate, be joyful, be honest, be driven, be resourceful, be playful, be powerful, be disciplined, be free. And I read that to myself every single morning. And I honestly think that it's had a pretty big impact. And I'm sure that there's going to be more levels to that I'll continue to add as time goes on. But the idea is just how can I be the most expressive version of myself? And part of that is doing this right here, getting in front of the camera. Like, I had the opportunity to speak at this event, and this will kind of end up bringing this whole thing full circle. But this event that I had the opportunity to speak at was with a lot of community members that are in mental health and medical and different things like that. And when I got invited to speak at this thing, right after I made my other video, I was terrified. Like, I'm not a public speaker, and I can tell you a previous story to why, at least I think, where that came from, why I don't like to speak in public, why it makes me incredibly nervous. But the first thing that I did, I decided, after I went in, I fully committed. I just said to myself, like, look, if I'm gonna have a greater impact and serve, more powerfully, I gotta get in front of people. And if I'm reading these virtues off on a daily, the things that I want, my kids to see in me as a leader, as a man, my wife, my comrades, my community, whoever, bravery and courage. Like, those two things right there. It's not about, are you afraid of something? It's, what are you going to do about it, right? So the first thing I said when I had the opportunity to speak at that, sitting around, and it wasn't that many people. I thought it was going to be like a 50 to 100 people, and it was like 10 or 12. But it's still nerve-wracking. The first thing that I said was like, you probably heard a lot of speakers, some confident, some funny, some maybe quiet and shy, some bland and dull. I said, but I'm going to tell you right now, what I am is nervous. I said, but that's the whole point, is getting out and being an expressed version of yourself that people can see, and you can inspire somebody with. Because sometimes all it takes is you stepping out in the light, sharing your light for somebody else, and it just gives them a spark. You know what I mean? For them to share their gifts and talents with the world. And even if it just helps one person, that then helps another person, that then helps another person. Like sometimes it only takes one, or maybe it's 10, or maybe it's 100, maybe it's 1,000,000. You never know what that one compliment, that one smile, that one action, that one step that you take, you never know the implications and the ripple effect that could have to help tons of different people. And so to bring it back to this podcast and what this is all about, right, is after I was able to speak at that event, I had a bit of a revelation. Okay, so what I found is there's tons of, not tons, but there's a lot of good people that are looking out for our community, whether that's the homeless population, some like the mental health, the medical, just kind of the different things that you end up seeing on a day-to-day basis if you're really paying attention. And it is an absolute necessity, and it's phenomenal, and I honor every one of those individuals for doing such a great job. And if you don't know, look it up. I mean, you can support those guys across the board. But what I thought about afterwards was something that I learned through Peter Crone and kind of his take in Ayurvedic medicine, which is, if you have a rash on your skin, some doctors you may go to, and they'll prescribe you something for the rash, to go on the skin to get rid of the rash. But the question is, what's under the surface? What's the root cause? Whether it's something in your diet, your sleep habits, your stress patterns, as far as your cortisol levels. Like, there's so many different things that could be potentially causing that imbalance that's then manifesting on the surface. So if you look around, I mean, of course you see homeless population. I mean, I've heard tons of people say, oh, it's gotten worse in the last 2 or 3 years, or or mental health, or there's so many different things, crime ramping up in certain aspects. And it makes me think, okay, well, we're working on dealing with what I would call the manifestation of that. But where is this coming from? What is the root cause? And you could say that's mental, some of the mental illness, or in my mind, I think it's just a human epidemic. It really. But I thought about, we're carrying so many years of generational trauma, I believe, and each one of us, I think it's getting harder and harder to be able to express that. And many of us, I feel like, don't think we have a voice. And so I want to be here to help share that voice. So the idea behind this is bringing people on that have stories of overcoming within the community. So local stories of overcoming. And that could be anything, realistically anything. That could be anxiety, depression, addiction, some form of health-related issue, financial problems, emotional crisis, marriage. I mean, you name it. It could be anything. It's all these little things that we don't really think. We're like, oh, that doesn't matter. Like, nobody wants to hear about that. But it's like, how do we, as individuals, overcome these things? Like, I know that through my journey and books and podcasts that I've learned a lot, and there's a lot of things that I could start breaking down and I could start teaching. But that's just my perspective. So I want to know, If we brought people together from within the community and they could each share their own perspective, what kind of an impact could that have? And you could watch a podcast like I did and see and listen to a guy that gives you all these tips about habits and how to overcome this and overcome that. Yeah, absolutely, it had a very profound impact on me. But it's like watching a professional football game or basketball game, or you're watching a superhero on TV. It's like they're like an icon, but it also almost seems unattainable in a way. It's so far out there. So if we brought people on within the community, if I brought people on within the community, and you're like, dang, like, John, man, I didn't know that guy was my neighbor, or Bob, I went to high school with that guy, I didn't know he went through that. Like, that's incredible. Like, did you hear Bob's story? And then it gets shared with somebody else in the community, and then you have the opportunity to collaborate. And the job of me would be, if I can extract some of that story, compartmentalize that into what they learn to overcome certain challenges in their life, then we can share that with one another and potentially even build upon that and teach one another these things. So I want to build a community within the community that's going to go more widespread. All right, so the idea kind of was like, an AA meeting, a lot of what that would be is like, it brings people together to share their stories vulnerably about the challenges that they've gone through, to share fully authentically their story, and for other people to just hear them and to just listen and to not pass judgment, but to embrace them and love them for where they're at among their journey. And then not only that, to offer them guidance as to where they can go to shape their lives and go in the different way that can be, they can build upon that to whatever dream they want. Because I think we're ultimately unlimited beings. We have unlimited potential. We're only limited by our own beliefs. And not only that, in an AA you have sponsors that hold you accountable, and you have a group that holds you accountable. Well, this community we would create would help to hold accountability as well. So I think that this could be something that's really powerful. I want to talk to as many individuals as possible. I'm going to start doing one a month to really kind of kick things off. But that's the idea behind the Rising Legacies. Is I want to take the unspoken underdogs and the people that think maybe they don't matter, and I want to light that flame. I want to spark that flame, and I want them to know that they matter and they can be heard and they can share their story, and it's powerful. And every single person, I don't care who you are, from the guy that's living on the street to the guy that's got billions of dollars, everyone has something that they're going through, some form of inadequacy that they've had to overcome or are still currently dealing with, some challenge in their life. Nobody's is perfect, right? None of us are perfect, and that is what's beautiful about each and every one of us. So please, if you will, come with me on this journey. Share the love. If you would, like and share the podcast as well. Please, if you know anybody that has an incredible story within the community, or if it's even you yourself, please reach out to me. I want to hear about it. This is going to be on the side of me, obviously being an automotive consultant, being of service down here at Tower Motor. But, I'm really kind of looking forward, I'm very much looking forward to where this journey is going to go. And thank you for listening to me while I stumbled through this whole thing. I hope it had a good flow throughout the whole thing, and I'm sure this will only continue to get better as time goes on, because this is a skill that I want to tap into more of. It's just being on camera, speaking in front of people, and just offering up myself to be of service at the highest expression and the most authentic expression possible. So thank you all very, very much. Please be blessed. Have an amazing day. Live fully, and know that you are extraordinary. Thank you.